My mom called me a liar for saying her husband touched me. So I let her believe him while I built a case behind their backs. Now he's in prison and she's begging me to visit. My name's Erica, I'm 27 now, but this started when I was 15. Let me tell you something up front. If you've never had the person who's supposed to protect you look you in the eye and call you a liar for telling the truth, you don't know what betrayal feels like. Not really. That kind of betrayal doesn't sting, it shatters. It splits your world into before and after. And for me, after started the night I told my mom that her new husband, John, had touched me. I remember her eyes. That flicker of something, fear? Denial? Rage? Maybe all three. I'd rehearsed it in my head 100 times. I didn't cry. I was calm. I told her what happened while she was out with her friends. How he came into my room when the power went out. How he said he was checking on me. How his hand lingered. And how I hadn't been able to sleep since. She stared at me like I'd just kicked her puppy. Do you know what you're saying? She whispered. Yes. You hate him. I don't, You do, she said louder, trembling. Because he's strict. Because he doesn't let you get away with things like your father did. I wanted to scream. Instead I said he touched me. And then she slapped me. I didn't cry even then. I just touched my cheek, nodded, and walked out. She didn't follow me. I packed a duffel bag, grabbed my school ID and the emergency $20 I'd stashed in a sock drawer, and climbed out the window like I'd done a dozen times, except this time I wasn't coming back tomorrow. At first I thought I'd just walk until I couldn't. I ended up at a 24-hour diner by the interstate, too scared to go in, too cold to stay out. That's when Tina found me, a waitress, late 40s, tired eyes, kind smile. She asked if I was okay. I wasn't, but I said I was. She didn't push. Just brought me a grilled cheese and a glass of water and said it was on the house. I broke down halfway through the sandwich. She let me sit in the corner booth until morning, then drove me to a youth shelter. I told the woman at intake everything. Not just about John. About my mom. About how I'd learned early not to ask for hugs when I was scared because she didn't do that kind of coddling. About how John moved in when I was 12 and how his eyes always made my skin crawl. About the time I woke up and he was standing in my doorway. Watching. They believed me. That was new. They asked if I wanted to press charges. I didn't answer right away. It felt like too big a word. Press charges. It felt like setting a bomb under everything. But the more I sat with it, the more I thought about my mom's face, twisted with fury at me, the clearer it became. He'd done something wrong. And I was the one who felt ashamed? That's how it started. They placed me in foster care. A woman named Nadine took me in, short, no nonsense. Ran her house like a military ship but had the softest heart you could imagine. She let me pick the color of my room. Let me keep the door locked at night. Let me exist without explanation. That first hearing? My mom didn't show. The second one? She came. With him. They sat side by side like a team. He wore a navy suit. She wore the expression of someone auditioning for the part of heartbroken mother. I stared at them from across the courtroom and felt like I was watching strangers. She told the judge I was a troubled girl. That I was making things up. That I'd been off ever since puberty. The judge asked me if I wanted to testify. I stood up. My legs were shaking, but my voice didn't. I told them what he did. The judge asked if there were any witnesses. There weren't. Just me and my word. And hers. Guess which one they believed. The charges were dropped due to lack of evidence. But something had shifted. Even though the law didn't call it what it was I had. And I wasn't done. I spent the next 3 years in Nadine's care. Graduated high school with honors. Started volunteering at the same youth shelter that saved me. And the whole time I built my case. Quietly. Carefully. See, I'd learned something. You can't always fight fire with fire. Sometimes you fight it with paperwork. I filed a complaint with CPS, listing every incident with John I could remember. I got a therapist and documented my trauma. I learned about victim advocacy, about patterns of abuse, about how predators rarely stop with just one. And I waited. Then in my second year of community college, I got a call from the same shelter. A girl had come in. 14. Said her stepdad made her feel weird at night. Her name was Lily. Her mom's name was Diane. Her mom's new boyfriend? John. I nearly dropped the phone. Because that confirmed everything I feared. He'd done it again. And this time, I wasn't the only one who could say so. Lily didn't know me. Had never met me. But the second I heard her voice trembling through the intake form, he just stands in my doorway. Like he's checking on me. But he doesn't leave. I felt like I was 16 again. Except this time, I wasn't alone. I asked the shelter staff to put me in touch with Lily's caseworker. They hesitated at first, confidentiality and all, but when I explained who I was, what I'd been through, and most importantly, that I'd tried to report John years ago, they connected the dots. I met with the caseworker, Lauren, a sharp-eyed woman with a coffee cup permanently fused to her hand. She listened to me like every word mattered. When I finished, she said, "We're going to take this seriously." God, I could have cried. Lauren reopened the investigation into John, this time with Lily's account and mine forming a pattern. It wasn't just a he said, she said anymore. It was two girls years apart, describing the same man in the same nightmarish way. The DA's office agreed to refile charges. I didn't tell my mom. Not yet. I wanted her to feel safe in her smug little world for just a little longer. You might think I was being petty. Maybe I was. But something happens when you spend your teenage years trying to make yourself small enough not to be noticed. When you carry shame that never belonged to you. When your own mother calls you a liar because it's easier than facing the truth. You start to imagine what justice feels like. And it felt like this. They arrested John at his job. He was a regional manager at some car dealership now. Real suburban empire energy. I got a text from Lauren with the photo of him being let out in cuffs. His comb-over was flapping in the wind. I saved the photo. I won't lie. I smiled. When the news broke, small town, front page stuff, my mother called me for the first time in almost 7 years. Blocked number. I let it go to voicemail. Her voice was shaky. "Erica, it's your mother." I don't know what's happening. John says someone made false accusations. This girl, Lily. He says you're behind it. That this is some kind of vendetta. Please, call me back. If you ever loved me, please call me. If I ever loved her. I didn't call her back. Instead, I met with the prosecutor's office. They asked if I'd be willing to testify. Not just about John, but about my mother's response when I first told her. About how she ignored it. Enabled him. Protected him. I didn't answer right away. But later that night, I opened a box in my closet. Inside was a small spiral notebook. It had a purple cover, frayed at the corners, and a cracked sticker that said, "Keep out," in glitter letters. My old journal. The one I'd kept in high school. I'd written about everything, about how he would brush past me in the hallway and his hand would linger. About how I'd started locking my door at night with a chair wedged under the knob. About how my mother stopped hugging me the year John moved in. It wasn't just emotional proof. It was contemporaneous proof. That's the word the prosecutor used when I showed them. Their eyes lit up like Christmas. We went to trial the following spring. John had a slick lawyer. My mom sat behind him every day, not on my side but his. Like she was the wronged one. Like I had destroyed her life. Lily testified first. God, she was brave. She was shaking, crying, but she looked that man in the eye and told the court exactly what he did. I sat in the back row, hands clenched so tightly my knuckles went white. Then it was my turn. I took the stand and told them everything. I read from my old journal and made eye contact with my mother when I said the words. She chose him. Not me. She flinched. For the first time, she flinched. The cross-examination was brutal. John's lawyer tried to poke holes, make it sound like I had a grudge, like I was doing this for attention. I answered every question with the quiet confidence of someone who had waited over a decade to be heard. In the end, it took the jury 3 hours. Guilty. On 2 counts of indecent assault. 1 count of corruption of a minor. Maximum sentence. 9 years. It wasn't enough. But it was something. I walked out of that courthouse and didn't look back. I didn't wait for the press. I didn't wait for my mother. But she waited for me. Outside. I saw her out of the corner of my eye, standing next to her car, arms crossed, eyes red. "Erica," she said, stepping toward me. "Please." I kept walking. "I didn't know," she said. That stopped me. I turned. "You knew." "No. You knew what he was," I said. "You just didn't care. Or maybe you did. But you cared about losing him more." Her eyes welled up. I was scared. I didn't know how to handle it. I shook my head. "You didn't have to handle it. You just had to believe me." She took a step forward. "He's gone now. Can we fix this?" And that's when I saw it. That same flicker from years ago. Fear. Denial. Regret. But not love. Not the kind a mother should have. "No," I said. I turned away. I haven't spoken to her since. But last week, she called the shelter where I volunteer. Left a message. Said she wanted to visit me. That she's sorry. That she thinks about me every day. That John ruined everything. She didn't mention how she helped him. She never does. When John was sentenced, I thought that was it. End of story. He was locked up. Mom had nothing left to say, and I could finally start living again. But I was wrong. 2 weeks after the trial, I got a letter. No return address. Just my name scribbled in shaky handwriting. Inside was a torn sheet of line paper. You think you've won. But lies don't stay buried forever. I remember everything. And so do people who owe me favors. Sleep light. No signature. But I didn't need one. The phrasing, the menace under the words, it was him. John. Writing from prison. I took it straight to the police. They logged it, copied it, told me there wasn't much they could do unless he explicitly threatened violence. Gray area, they called it. It didn't feel gray. It felt like a match being struck in a room full of gas. I changed the locks. Added cameras. Made sure the shelter where I volunteered had me listed under an alias in case he tried to dig. I was smart. Careful. But what hit harder than the letter? The second one. This time it wasn't from John. It was from my mom. Same blocky handwriting. No return address. One page. You need to stop. I know you think you're doing the right thing, but you're making it worse. He's not the man you say he is. He never was. Please, for everyone's sake, just move on. That's when it hit me. She was still in touch with him. He was in prison and she was writing, maybe visiting, defending him. I wanted to scream. Not because she believed him, I expected that, but because she was trying to silence me again. Like nothing had changed. And then came the third envelope. This one wasn't mailed. It was slid under the door of my apartment one evening while I was in the shower. It was blank. Inside, a photo. A picture of me. Taken from across the street. I was coming out of the shelter, holding a bag of groceries. Smiling. Someone had been watching. I brought it to the cops immediately. This time, they took it seriously. Opened a file. Said they'd look into John's contacts, anyone he could have gotten to on the outside. But what stuck with me wasn't the photo, it was the note scrawled on the back in all caps. Still watching. That night, I didn't sleep. And still, somehow I kept going. Kept showing up for work. Kept volunteering. Kept acting like I was fine. Until the knock on my door. It was a Thursday. Late. I looked through the peephole hard in my throat. It was her. My mother. Standing in the hallway, clutching something, a folder, maybe, eyes wide and red. I didn't open the door. She spoke through the wood. Erica, please. I didn't know. I swear to God, I didn't know he was writing you. I didn't send those letters. Not that one. Not the picture. My voice was ice. You told me to move on. You said I was making it worse. I was scared, she said. I thought, maybe he was telling the truth. I didn't know what to believe. I almost laughed. And now you do? She was quiet. Then. I went to visit him last week. Of course she did. I looked him in the eye and asked if he touched you. And he said, her voice cracked. He said, which time? The silence between us was louder than anything she could have screamed. She started sobbing right there in the hallway. I didn't open the door. Just listened. I failed you, she whispered. I did everything wrong. I let a monster into our home. I chose him. And now I'm begging you, just once let me choose you. I didn't say anything. She waited. And when she realized I wasn't opening the door, she slid the folder under it. Inside was a notarized statement. Her written admission. That she ignored my warning. That she sided with him. That she was complicit. It was addressed to the parole board. I know it won't undo anything, her voice said, barely audible, but maybe it keeps him from getting out early. Maybe it helps. And then she left. I didn't sleep that night either. But for the first time, it wasn't from fear. It was from the weight of a choice. Forgive her? Or cut her out, forever? I stared at that letter for hours. Her handwriting was shaky. The paper smelled like her perfume. She was finally trying. But the part of me that built this case, that sat in that courtroom, that testified with shaking hands and a still spine, that part knew something. Some damage doesn't heal. It doesn't scar. It just stays open. So I made my choice. I mailed the letter to the parole board the next morning. But I didn't call her. Didn't write. Didn't answer when she tried again a week later. Or the week after that. She kept leaving voicemails, soft, broken ones. I'm sorry. I don't expect anything. I just want you to know that. I believed she meant it. But that didn't change what she'd done. Because I remembered the silence. The way she watched me crumble at 15 and chose to believe a man who wore cheap cologne and polished lies. I remembered the slap. The cold hallway. The closed door. There are apologies that come too late, not because they aren't sincere, but because too much was lost before they arrived. I told my therapist I think she wants a redemption arc. She nodded. And what do you want? Peace. And I finally had it. So I made my final move. Quietly. Cleanly. I wrote her one letter. Handwritten. One page. I don't hate you. But I'm not coming back. You protected him. You doubted me. You let me disappear without chasing after me. You lost a daughter long before you realized you had one. This isn't revenge. It's reality. Please stop calling. I didn't sign it. Just mailed it and blocked her number. That was 6 months ago. I haven't heard from her since. And John? He's still in prison. No parole granted. Her statement helped, but not as much as Lily's bravery or the second girl who came forward months later. Yeah, there was another. That's how these men work. They don't stop. They wait for silence to protect them. But I didn't stay silent. Not this time. Not ever again. Last week, Lily turned 16. We had cake at the shelter. She asked if I wanted to sit with her mom. I said no, thank you. She just nodded. She gets it. Some ties aren't broken, they're cut. Deliberately. Because survival isn't just about getting out. It's about choosing who you let in after. And me? I finally chose myself. Update 4 months later. Didn't expect this story to reach so many. Thank you for the support. My life feels quieter now. I moved to a new apartment, got a small dog, and started a new job at a women's advocacy center. Mom still writes sometimes. I still don't write back. Some doors stay closed. And that's okay. For the first time, peace isn't a dream, it's daily life.